Anish was the kind of person who always had something to say. In class, in group discussions, even at home, he talked. A lot. It wasn't out of arrogance. He wanted to be heard, to be understood, to show that he knew something, that he mattered. But the more he talked, the more people seemed to stop listening. During debates, he would interrupt. During study groups, he'd try to explain everything, even things no one asked about. Slowly, his classmates began to avoid him. Teachers stopped engaging. Anish couldn't understand why. "I'm just trying to help," he thought. "I know what I'm talking about." But it didn't feel good to always speak and never be heard. One day, in the middle of a history class, his teacher, Ms. Rao, paused and asked the students a question. Anish, as usual, answered right away, without waiting, without thinking. Ms. Rao looked at him quietly, then said, "Anish, today I want you to listen, not speak. Can you try that?" The whole class went silent. So did Anish. It was the first time he had been asked to stay quiet, and he wasn't sure how to feel. For the rest of the class, Anish didn't speak a word. At first, he felt awkward. His mind raced with things he wanted to say, corrections, clarifications, opinions. But slowly, something unusual happened. He started hearing more. Not just the teacher's words, but the way others hesitated before answering, the way some voices shook with uncertainty, the way some students had thoughts he had never considered. He noticed how Ria, the quietest girl in class, gave a thoughtful answer no one had expected. How Arun, who usually stayed in the back, spoke with clarity and calm. Anish had been so focused on expressing himself, he had never truly noticed what others had to offer. After class, Ms. Rao walked up to him and said softly, "Did you learn more by speaking or by listening?" Anish didn't answer. He just nodded. That evening, he sat with his notebook but didn't write anything. He was still thinking about the question, and for the first time in a long while, he didn't rush to respond. The next day, during group work, Anish did something unusual. He didn't speak first. He listened. He let the others finish before offering his thoughts. He nodded. He took notes. And when he finally shared something, it was short, clear, and quiet. To his surprise, people listened. They didn't interrupt. In fact, someone even said, "That's a good point, Anish." He felt something shift. It wasn't about being the loudest voice anymore. It was about saying the right thing at the right time. After school, he met Ms. Rao by the staff room. She handed him a small folded note and said, "Read this when you're alone." Later that evening, sitting by the window, he opened it. It read, "Silence is not the absence of thought, it's the presence of awareness." He read it again and again. It was a single sentence, but it felt like someone had handed him a map. That night, Anish didn't feel the need to explain himself to anyone. He didn't post on his group chat. He didn't comment on everything at home. He simply observed his surroundings, his thoughts, his reactions. In the days that followed, things started to shift around him. People invited him into conversations more often, not because he talked a lot, but because he brought value when he did. One afternoon, during a debate, the teacher asked for closing thoughts. Everyone looked at Anish. He waited a moment, then said just one sentence. It wasn't loud, it wasn't long, but it landed, and the room was silent, for the right reasons. Afterward, a classmate patted him on the back and said, "You've changed, man. It's like, you listen now." Anish smiled. Not everything needed to be said. Some things were better felt. Later that week, Ms. Rao called Anish to stay back after class. She pointed to a bookshelf in the corner of the room. There was an old dusty book lying on the top shelf. She handed it to him. "No homework," she said. "Just read the first page." At home, Anish opened the book. It was a journal, filled with handwritten notes, sketches, and quotes. The first page said, "Wise people speak when they have something to say. Others speak just to say something." He paused. It was the kind of line that didn't ask for a reaction. It asked for reflection. He closed the book slowly and looked out the window. The world outside felt quieter, not because it had changed, but because he had. He didn't feel the same need to be noticed. He didn't need to fill every silence. He had learned the strength in restraint, the kind of power that didn't shout, because it didn't have to. A few days later, during the school assembly, the principal announced a student had been selected to give the year-end reflection speech. To everyone's surprise, it was Anish. Whispers ran through the students. Some were curious, some were skeptical. When the day arrived, Anish stood on the stage. He looked at the crowd for a moment, then spoke. Not fast, not loud, just enough. He didn't try to impress. He didn't try to sound wise. He spoke from stillness. His words were few, but they landed with weight. After the speech, the applause was quiet at first, then steady, then strong. Back in class, Ms. Rao passed him in the hallway and said just one thing. "You didn't raise your voice, Anish. You raised your presence." He nodded. No response. No need. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all.